Alright, so some of you, like the crazy nut I am, I bought this Lionel Amtrak F40PH. It's a Legacy. And some of you, I bet you some of you out there wanted the head and power with it, you know, because I went over to Lionel during the train fest and I asked them if they're going to do anything with head and power. They're like, well, we haven't even started on the sounds yet, so we're working on that. Okay. So I said, okay, you know, so I waited for this engine to come, and these are one of my favorite engines ever, and I had to get one. And when I first tried it out, there was no head and power to hook up with the train. So I would hook it up in train mode, you know. And the problem is with the train mode, I have another one just like this, Amtrak engine number 364, and I set both of those up in a train form on the Legacy. And what would happen is every time you crank it up with the RPM, both of them are going at the same time because it's in a train configuration. I didn't think of that at first. So Lionel really did nothing to lock in the RPMs for the Amtrak F40. So what I did here over at the engine is I disconnected the two CAN motors that it comes with. I disconnected the first one with the motherboard, and I disconnected with the second one, but I didn't want to mess with these because these are pretty much soldered onto the piece of metal here. So I disconnected both of these here, and now it runs freely. Even though the gears are still in it, it still runs free. So my idea was, when I turn it on, and I'll do that here, I turn it on, I'm gonna turn it on here. You know, the sounds will start up and everything, but now when I do it, when you turn it up all the way, it's gonna stay that way, because whenever you would crank down with the RPMs, let's say, like I had it up here, and then I turn it down, the RPMs would go down so they wouldn't stay on. So what I did was, when I disconnected the motors, I want this to be a dummy. Yeah, I know $500 some for this engine and then make it a dummy unit. I know it's pretty foolish, but that's the way I wanted it. But so when you would turn up the RPM now, I'll just do an example. I'm not going to turn up all the way because it's loud. Turn down the volume. So now you got that. So I imagine it's running at run 8. It's not going to, when you turn down the throttle all the way, the RPM is not going to go down because you can't move the engine anyways because it's got no CAN motors. But then if you were to move the engine, so here's the issue. If you were to move the engine, the rear CAN motor is going to spin. The rear CAN motor is going to spin, and then it's going to send a signal to the computer saying, hey, something's wrong, I think it's missing a motor or something. Well, I want it to be that way, so the trick is to not run the engine at all. And if you come into a problem like this where the cab light is flashing, just hit reset and it'll stop, and it just resets the computer, wherever. So this is my second engine to run with head and power. So what I'm gonna do is not move the controller at all, set the RPM to run 8, and then press aux 2 to turn off the cab light and headlights. And you know, if I were to sell this on eBay or something like that, or somebody else wanted, I would just put on the motors again, and you know, say like, hey, I just put the motors back on, and it's not a dummy anymore. It just runs as a motor. So yeah, that's all I did. So I did this because I'm the crazy guy that like everything has to be right. So if you're one of those guys, this is one solution that I did. I know this is kind of a crazy solution, and I know maybe some of you out there don't want to mess things up. I was pretty scared doing it too, I won't lie. But this is one way to do it. So if you're that guy that wants the true realism with the Amtrak F40s with the head and power, this is one way to do it. Just got to remember, don't turn the throttle, otherwise the cab light's gonna blink on and off. So, all right, so I kind of messed up at the first part of the video, and I just realized that. So here's the front engine motor disconnected. I had to disconnect 2 wires here and here, and they're just hanging there. They're not going to do any damage as long as you just tuck them in. But when I went to turn the engine over to screw it in, this piece came out, and this piece is what turns the motor, helps turn the motor, and that fell out. That fell out right there. So I turned it over, and I heard something. Wiggle inside of there, and it's this piece. And what this, like I said, helps turn the motor. So this is really no harm. I'm just gonna set this aside and have this put this in a plastic baggie. So the other thing is, since I disconnected the rear motor here, it will not fit sideways because with this extra, looks like 1 centimeter, half a centimeter, it stretches out the plastic body of the 40. So what I'm gonna do right now, and to kind of show you guys, I'm gonna just gonna take this piece out. Just take it out like that. So now I'm going to connect this back, and this gear right here will not be able to reach this, so it's gonna roll free. And if you kind of look, if I put it in there, there is a lot of room between that ball and down there. So, all right, since my cameraman left me, so what I did, I put the motor back in here. All you have to do is, when you take the motor out, you just gotta unscrew these 2 right here. Oh, excuse me. Gotta unscrew these 2 right here. There's a lock washer on both of them, so just always keep that on here. It goes in between the bracket of the can motor and the screw. And screw this in. This is not going anywhere. Even with this little piece out, it is not going anywhere. It's pretty solid in there, so and it still moves freely. It'll just sit there now, and if you try to move it, it won't harm the engine at all, because between that ball joint and the pivot, the pivot that connects to here, it's pretty far away from each other, so it won't damage it at all. So now I have the F40 back together. I put the motor mount on so the can motor won't fall off. So now when you put it back on, just take the screws and just screw it back in. And when you screw it back in, this piece is separate. And when you screw that back in, there's specific screws for this back piece right here. Just screw that in is all. So we got the F40. I'm making this one as my second unit, so this is always going to be my second unit, and this one's going to be my first unit. So what we're going to do, I got them both programmed in my remote. This one's, I call it 36. I call that one 38. So I got 36 and 38 in here. So I'm going to turn on the transformer, and now I'm going to show you what I like, because now that you don't have the motor installed, and now that you don't have the motor connected to the trucks of these engines, you don't have to do anything. It acts like a dummy. But then the con about this is you got more weight on your train now. So that's one issue about this, but I'll take my chances with this. But anyways, so here's the engine. So I'm going to turn on number 36 here. So 36 started up, and I'm going to turn on 38, which is that engine right there. Now, what's going to happen is I'm going to try to move it, and now the motor in there is turning, but it's not spinning on the truck. And now the cab light is blinking, saying, "Hey, something's wrong." So now all you just got to do is hit reset if that ever happens. So now that we got that connected, let's turn up our RPM. So while that's turning up, you can press aux 2. This'll work for me. There you go, press aux 2. Turn off the cab light and the headlights, but leave the number boards on. Strobe lights won't go on. Now if we come back to this one will run, you know. So this one will run. That one stays there. So I'm going to switch this to engine 36. And now this one's work. This is not in train form. This is in engine form. This is not in train form. So now we got that started. Let's get it started. So, all right. So sorry about that. The train kind of pooped out on me, and the truck came off the rail. So now, as I was saying, let's get this started. So got it on 36. We're gonna run it like how I want it. Everything works. It's just this acts as a dummy with sounds. So now what's nice, I can fiddle around with the RPM on the first engine, while the second engine stays in 900. And now what I have here is two Amtrak F40s. They both have Legacy. One has head and power. One stays as a powered engine to pull the rest of the train. Only except the motors in this one are disconnected, and this one's pulling the entire thing. And then when you stop it, the RPMs go down on that one, not on that one, because it's not in train form. It's in single engine form. So all I need to do is just switch back and forth. And that's how I somehow created or came up with this today. So hope you guys liked it. Hope that answered all your questions.